Stand clear.
100% Wild Podcast.
So for all you listeners,
hello and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast. This is episode number 339. We are powered by DeerCast, and I am Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury, and I'm excited because today we have one of my favorite people in the outdoor industry jumping on with us.
Yeah, we got TBone, Travis Turner, one of the three bone collectors. I don't know that there's a more recognized individual in the outdoor bow hunting space.
Certainly a more beloved. I think of only a couple guys. TBone, I think of Cuz. You know, there's a couple guys that everybody just loves when you see him, lights up a room.
Tim Chelsvik.
We went too far. TBone, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I appreciate it, man. All those accolades. I don't know if I can live up to that. Maybe the most recognizable physique, maybe.
I saw that Jort picture that you posted on your Instagram here recently. It was a throwback, and I didn't realize you were a fashion guru also.
Well, I figured a little skin might get me a few more likes, so I threw it out there.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And how it doesn't work for some of us.
Yeah. Tim's been running with a shirt off for like 5 years. He can't get anybody to look.
Man, one of these days.
So I appreciate you jumping on. I know you were talking before we jumped on that it's plant week there down in Georgia, down the south. This is crazy to me because here we're sitting almost the end of September, and it makes sense once you say it, but we planted, it feels like eons ago. We've replanted. Mm-hmm. And I think you said that you're going to be in the same boat. No rain's coming, is it?
Yeah. Usually, we wait on hurricanes. It seems like September is usually a dry month. Ideally, I mean, if you didn't have everything to consider, I'd love to have stuff in before season came in, everything planted end of August. But, through all the years I've been planting, we've been bit between the drought. And then the biggest thing around here is army worms. They usually get us if we, plant that early. So there's a lot of people that do it on Labor Day weekend just because that's when they have free time. Guys that have clubs and stuff like that. That's when they got extra time to plant, and it's before deer season opens up. But we've got adapted to where we only do it like the last week of September or the first week of October. So we try to have everything busted up like 4 weeks ago and let it catch all the moisture that it possibly can. And then we'll plant now. And we've probably had the best success with that. And luckily we're a bait state. So if we're hunting before then, or, we've got bait piles and feeders and stuff out long, all year long for us, but a lot of times we'll, key in on certain places and hunt over that when it comes to the first part of the season.
So the army worms, so what's the difference between, having your stuff out a few weeks ago or a month ago versus putting it out now? I wouldn't think you guys are getting a frost down there. Like, what is it that stops the army worms from hitting you later on for a later planting?
Cooler temperatures. And then plus excessive rain, like when it seems like they, and then they still could. It's just the percentage of the percentage of them wiping your crops out, which they do it in. I mean, they'll eat acres in like 2 or 3 days. I mean, just it's unbelievable. Yeah. So it seems like the percentage goes down as you get closer. Yeah, we're not getting a frost by no means, but we are having some low 50s. Kind of temperatures in the evening. So it really does slow it down. And it's almost like it's their, I don't know the correct terminology because I'm not a biologist, so to speak, but it's like the hatch is, the latter part of August, first part of September. And then it seems like the percentage of that happening goes way, way, way down towards the end of September.
Sure.
T-Bone, I'm sorry. We thought you were a biologist. So pretty much the rest of this interview
I know he's a jack of all trades.
We'll just cut it short right now.
Well, one of the, this is a good segue because one of them I'm holding up, if you're watching the podcast, I'm holding up what is called the Archer's Mat. This is something that TBone reached out for us to play some small part with the Whitetail anatomy section. We used the
Ryan Kirby
artist rendering of the deer from DeerCast. But take us through this, the Archer's Mat. This is pretty cool. You're doing this with Last Chance Archery, right?
Yeah. Last Chance Archery is a fantastic company that builds products for shops and archery gurus. There's so many times people are, just in depth, because if you're an archer, it's kind of like a cross between NASCAR and golf. So you got to kind of be able to work on your stuff some. And plus, not everybody's got a nice pro shop in their backyard or near their house. So you need to be able to work on it. And plus, it adds to the pride factor of being able to work on your own stuff. If there's a problem or a tuning issue, or you just want to tinker down in the basement, you want to be able to do that. So, we've all got phones, we all got computers, we can look up all this information wherever you want to, but then again, it sends you down a 30-minute rabbit hole of trying to find all the information. So, I come up with the idea of like, hey, let's have all this on a mat. Everybody that has a workshop, they've got one of these mats of some sort, of some brand, or Snap-on or Napa or something like that in front of them. I said, let's just put all the information that we're going to need. And if it's in a shop environment, then the consumer is, while his bow's getting worked on, he's got all this stuff that he knows to ask the right questions, and all the information is right there at your fingertips. And, we couldn't do it without including the anatomy of a deer, because so many guys are just sitting there thinking, well, the 10 ring on a 3D target's right in the center. That's where I need to hit it. Well, actually, no, you need to aim a little lower, and seeing the anatomy just kind of impregnates our head with all the things that we need to know as archers and bow hunters.
Yeah. Hey, TBone, settle a bet for us here. Front of center. How do you pronounce that acronym?
Front of center, FOC?
Yeah. You say FOC?
Or FOC.
That's what I say.
Here we go.
You owe me money.
TBone. Thanks.
Dude, I said it once in a podcast. It's like, I've never heard anybody say it. I go, well, that's how I say it.
And then you continue to say it.
I mean, I don't know much about FOC, but
apparently.
Yeah, no, I always say FOC, but I've seen where, it's a good excuse for a guy to slip in a FOC.
So that's what it is. That's like, what you're doing.
And then I get into Meet the Fuckers references.
Yeah, no,
it goes really downhill.
It was a deep dive.
Come on, fucker.
Yeah, exactly.
So for the uninitiated T-Bone, could you summarize what front of center, like that dynamic? Because I think if anyone goes I will not say it, Matt. If anyone goes on a deep dive on FOC, they're gonna see all kinds of different opinions.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, my brain's spinning right now, but I see a Saturday Night Live skit right here out of all this, or I don't think Siri's going to pick up FOC. But no, FOC is front of center percentage, meaning it lets you know the balance point of your arrow and how much weight is forward of center of the arrow. And without deep diving into it, unless you guys want to, primarily a hunting setup is somewhere in that 13 to about 19 or 20% for acceptable FOC. Seems like I'm not going to say the more, but the heavier, the more you lean towards that 16, 17, 18. It helps you in a lot of ways. It helps you in penetration. It helps you in forgiveness, in the wind, and it's just if you're checking off pros and cons, there's way more pros to having a little more weight forward than it is to being balanced in the center.
So the Ranch Fairy videos, and I don't know anything about this stuff. So what's he saying? He's saying more weight front of center, right? Isn't that like a heavier front end? Is that right? Or just a heavier arrow in general?
A heavier arrow in general is probably what he has been preaching. He's kind of, I should say, changed his tune a little bit from the beginning, because he is basing everything off of and being a advocate for the Ashby Foundation, which I am certainly a fan of. But the Ashby Foundation is basing everything off of basically shooting Cape buffaloes, dangerous game, 1,200 grain arrows. They revert that back to saying that the threshold is 650 grains is like the ultimate penetrating arrow, which don't deny that whatsoever. Heavier is better penetrating. However, there are a lot of categories that you want to be good at, and that means like trajectory. There's you don't want to shoot a 650 grain arrow if you're only pulling 60 pounds and you're slowing your bow down to 220 feet a second. So you want a happy medium in all these categories, meaning you want it to be try to maximize your feet per second, try to maximize the FOC, the mass weight of the arrow. All of these things play in. And I think that most people or gurus across the industry will agree that you'd like to try to be in that like 450 to about a 550 grain arrow for most everything in North American continent. But depending on what species you're after, the terrain you're after, where you're hunting, all of these have a factor, meaning like, hey, I'm going to be shooting out west and I'm going to be shooting longer distance. So therefore I want a little faster arrow so that, but if I'm hunting hogs, yeah, you want a little heavier arrow. You want a little more FOC. You want to cut on contact, single bevel broadhead. So it's all relative to what species you're hunting, where you're hunting and all that, but just a good all around meat and potatoes, average draw length, average poundage pulling, stay in that 450 to 525, in my opinion, is, going to be excellent for you for about anything across North America. But to answer your question, the ranch fairy, he has been pushing more towards the physics end of it from the Ashby Foundation, that heavier does penetrate, more FOC does penetrate better. It does, but there's nothing that is without a trade-off. With all that being said, you're going to lose in a lot of other categories. So you got to kind of, pick your battles and kind of have something good in all categories.
T-Bone, what's your arrow weight for your archery rig or for your whitetail rig?
Yeah, right. This year I'm running, it's 508 grains. It's 18.2 FOC, shooting about 278 feet per second.
Okay.
How do you tell the FOC then? How do you measure that? Is that on this map?
Yeah.
It's right on there, buddy.
Here. It is. FOC overview right here.
Yep.
I have an archer's map for that.
Yep.
Refer to the map.
That's a perfect plug.
Yep. Sure is. Now something that like on that, there's several different websites tell you to measure differently, and something that I'll add to this is like they tell you to measure the FOC from the throat of the nock to where the arrow is cut, like where the insert meets that. But in my opinion, I always tell people to, and it changes because we've run tests. I wish there was a ATA or a industry standard in which you should do this. But if you've got a 3-inch broadhead on your arrow, let's say it's 3 inches long, which sticks out from the point, that adds leverage. So therefore that changes your balance point.
Sure.
So you need to measure from the very back of the arrow to the very tip of the arrow, because the longer the tip changes your balance point. You could have 100 grains stuffed up inside the arrow, and then you could have 100 grains on a 3-inch long broadhead, and it's going to balance differently, even though the exact same weight is the same. So you have to measure the total overall length of broadhead, insert, nock, and of course the arrow shaft.
It makes sense to me, and I know nothing about this.
Can we get some B-roll of T-Bone and like the beautiful line numbers floating through the air around?
We can make it. We can make it.
Yeah.
We've got our own
it'll have
graphics.
It'll have one equation and a Cheeto and then like a slice of pizza and then a deer. And,
pinball machine.
That's right.
Yeah. A corn pile.
T-Bone, I'm dying to ask you this question because I've never heard a great answer to it, but it relates to stabilizers. And I've always thought, trying to figure out if your bow, like where you need weight on your bow in terms of the stabilizer, is always difficult for me, because it's like, I feel like if you're just holding it, the physics are different than when you're at full draw, when I would think that you would know that's the point where you would want to know what weight and where you need it. But I don't know, like, what's the best way to determine where you need weight on your bow with a stabilizer?
Yeah, it's not something that's really going to be determined over one afternoons of shooting. You have to do it at full draw to get an accurate reading on that. But the stabilizers do a couple of things. One, it's the farthest point away from the bow, so therefore it does absorb energy from the bow, and it dampens the shock and vibration and oscillation of the bow. So it does do that. Not as much as it used to, because today's bows are parallel and subparallel limb bows, to where the energy is being transferred up and down. So it's not as much lunge as it was, 10, 15 years ago. So it's not as valuable as far as that go, but it does still help. And then the more mass weight you have, it's going to absorb more energy as well too. if you'll notice, a lot of people are shooting these offset stabilizers to the opposite side of where your sight bolts on and or your quiver. And that's because everybody has, if you're a right-handed archer, you naturally have a right-handed cant. You just want to lean that way anyway. And then you're putting more mass weight there, so the bow is top heavy and wants to lean that way. So by putting that offset stabilizer down and back, it makes the bow level this way, as well as makes it easier to come to level side to side and reverse that cant. So that helps you, especially shooting longer distance. Now, to determine the weight that you need, you should pull back and then, hold the bow. And then if it feels mass weight wise too heavy to where you're like throwing your hip out of place, like you're holding a baby, then it might be a little bit too much mass weight that's pulling up and down. And then if you should watch your pin, see how the oscillations and the movement of your pin. If it gets to where you're having fatigue movement, then you might need to back off the mass weight a little bit to where you can hold it up okay. But there'll be a magical weight system there between the front and the back to where the pin will really sit still, and it'll we call it humming, but it'll start moving real slow. Instead of doing this, it's going real slow to where that sight picture is moving slow, you're stiller, so that you're going to execute a lot better shot when the sight picture is extremely still, rather than it moving fast and you saying, oh my God, I can't shoot this, I'm not going to hit anything. And then also it'll help as far as the way the bow falls after the shot, how the bow feels. So there's a lot of things to absorb rather than just like, throwing on some weight, picking it up and saying, yep, that's it. So I encourage people to get stabilizers that have adjustable ounce weights on the front and the back.
Kind of on the same. This is great. That's probably the best explanation.
I love it. Yeah.
And I'm struggling with this too. I just got a new bow and I'm trying to sight it in. And so I'm trying that offset stabilizer. It's the first time I'm really trying it, and it's, canted down to the left. So I'm a right-handed shooter. And then I got one coming out the front, but not really that far out the front. And so what I notice is when I'm shooting, for the most part, most of the time it's shooting great. But every once in a while I find myself, and I think it's in my grip, but I wanted your opinion of it, where out of nowhere I'll have an arrow that'll go 6 inches left. Is that all grip, or is that due to my stabilizer, or what do you think without seeing the shot? I know it's kind of hard to diagnose it.
It's not the same arrow.
What do you no, it's not the same arrow. Okay. It's me. I feel like it's my grip because I'm shooting a little bit heavier than I was last year pounded. So I kind of find myself trying to concentrate more when I'm at full draw. And when I got my hand where my kind of front fingers are out a little bit and it's just sitting there in the, right there in the crease between your index and your palm and your thumb, I shoot great. But then if I'm not focused on that, every once in a while I find myself gripping it to make sure I'm at the full draw, and it doesn't kind of get away from me. You think it's the grip, or you think it's the offset?
Well, with that, it's not the offset, because the bow's going to do the same thing every time. So if it's not doing it every time, then it's more than likely, it's more than likely, without me seeing you shoot, it would be your grip. Because if even though you have your hand open, a lot of people can have their hand open, but yet you still have tension in your palm and your fingers are rigid. So, I would encourage someone that is gripping the bow inconsistently, even take a string and wrap around there, even though the bows don't lunge like they used to, at least have a bow sling on there so that, subconsciously you're like, I'm not going to drop this bow. I can really relax my hand and let my fingers be loose and let it just press up the palm of my hand and run up the bone of my arm so that there's no tension whatsoever, or I'm trying not to torque. But another thing I would say, to look at is facial pressure, Matt, because at full draw, the string has, it's real common to hit way to the left if you have excessive facial pressure.
Okay.
So if you're leaning on the string, as soon as you let the bow go, the string goes out way to the, and it starts doing like this coming to you. So if you've got excessive facial pressure, it'll cause you to shoot to the left. But the reason why is because at full draw, the string has very little tension on it at full draw. You could just about grab someone's bow string at full draw and twist it up into a knot. All the pressure and tension's on the cables. and then it transfers when you go forward. And then because it's waving like that, that will cause you, especially guys with beards, you grab the beard, you grab excessive facial pressure, and it'll cause you to shoot to the left if you're not consistent with that. So be cautious of excessive facial pressure, but it sounds to me like, without watching you shoot, it's inconsistency with your hand torque.
Okay. That's what my gut tells me, is that it's the hand torque issue. And I know Mark had issues a couple years ago with that. So he added some stuff to the grip to make sure he didn't squeeze it too, almost like a pin, I don't know, like a sharp object on the edge of it.
Broken glass.
Yeah. So he wouldn't grip it tight, but I haven't done that. And so I'm trying to mentally think, okay, how do I get around this right as season starts? How do I stop kicking one left every 6 arrows?
I mean, it sounds like you need to shave off the one side of your
right
beard.
side of my beard.
Just your dedication to
what
the
I really
sport.
wish is that TBone could just come to St. Louis and
I was thinking the same thing. Coach TBone, help us out.
Yeah.
Well, the excessive EFP, excessive facial pressure, I'd never thought of that.
On this mat?
I think you need to trademark that term, by the way. Because one of my anchor points is the tip of my nose. At one point, though, it was the right side of my nose.
Here. Yeah.
So that's interesting to just think that little bit of too much touch there is going to change your point of impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And seeing is believing, meaning like, during a practice session, if you guys will do that, just absolutely apply a bunch of pressure and try to shoot a good shot, and you'll see how far off it is. So it lets you know that, and this is affecting it, because so many people has got the mindset is like, it's like a rear sight on a gun. You know how you put your face to the cheek pad, you think like, hey, I'm going to get in there deep on this. I'm going to get a good hard anchor in the back here, and I'm really on that. So I'm making sure that I'm anchored good on that string. Whereas, you think you're doing good because I'm finding myself a good hard anchor, but it's actually affecting your string and the way it tracks. And there's no way to tune that. You can't tune for that. You got to be like a machine and do the same thing every time.
Especially if you have an exceptionally hard nose.
Yes.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Or a snaggle tooth.
That really throw you. That's your release aid.
Is your orthodontist screwing up your archery?
I've seen you wear those Bubba teeth before.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I think about seeing some guys that full draw, and sometimes you even see like the string depressed into their cheek, like it's making an indent, and that's just, I guess that's more input on your shooting system.
Yeah. At the end of the day, whatever you can do that is 100% repeatable and duplicate exactly, then, there's some guys that can get away with that because they're doing it the exact same way every time. However, it's been proven that it's very hard to duplicate the exact same facial pressure every time. And it's going to lead to more problems than it is to than pros.
TBone, I'm curious, what are some of the online archery arguments that you see that you think like, that's just such a waste of time? Like, this has nothing to do with nothing.
I see a lot of people get concerned with like a laser on the wheel lean.
Oh,
and yeah, like when you run a laser up and down and they get focused on some things that are out of alignment on the bow. That, now granted, you do want it straight within reason. However, they'll say, man, my bow's just not going to shoot because the wheels leaned a little bit. Well, it doesn't really matter as long as it's doing the same thing every time, because the bow's a machine. Now granted, we do have to change the spacer and the limb tip flex and things like that to aid in tuning. But, a lot of people get fixed on certain things on the bow and or hyper tuning, that if they would work on themselves more and learn to be more repeatable and machine like on themselves, we've proven that you can take a bow that is untuned, out of time, and put it in a shooting machine, and you can hit the same arrow hole every time at 30 and 40 yards.
Yeah.
But it's when you add the human factor to it and put the human behind it that it really shows up. So the only reason we're tuning bows is for forgiveness, to make up for our flaws as humans.
Some more than others.
Yeah, exactly.
No commentary there. And I mean, that's that over the years, that has kind of become the way that I work through my shooting is I used to assume it was my equipment because that's the easier fix. Well, I'll just move the sight a little bit to the right here and we're good. But over the years, I've determined that 9 times out of 10, if there's a problem with where my arrows are hitting, it's the human behind
like
the bow.
the Taylor Swift song.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Anti-hero. You're the anti-hero.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm big into Taylor Swift right now, T-Bone, because she was at the Chiefs game. You know, her and Travis Kelce are a thing. I'm like fully vested and I'm a Swiftie now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I'm Taylor adjacent because my daughter loves.
I guarantee you T-Bone's into Taylor Swift.
Come
on, T-Bone.
I'm not anti Taylor Swift for sure. Cause I mean, I would be hypocritical because I am a huge fan of boy bands. So I've been, the NSYNC thing and the reunion, man, that has really got me stirred up, man. I can't get enough.
All in.
Yeah, I'm all in, man.
My only what I don't understand about Taylor Swift is when someone leaves country music. Feels like
Yeah,
it feels like a little bit of a betrayal for those of us.
I mean, she had higher peaks to climb.
That mindset in and of itself, it's like, man.
Yeah. I think the dollar amounts was bigger.
Yeah.
And she went that route.
No doubt.
Yeah, it was. Have y'all been seeing the posts and stuff where they said that she allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to borrow her stadium to play a football game?
There's been some awesome memes out of this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unreal.
T-Bone, before we jump into some of our kind of show standards, we'd be remiss if we didn't get a life update from you. Last time we had you on, you were taking us through the trials and tribulations, your leg amputation, and all the things going on with your health. I got to know an update, and I'm sure that's what the audience probably would rather hear from you. How are things on that end of life for you?
Sure. You know, they never like to say cancer free. And so every 4 months I have to go back for checkups, MRI, a CAT scan, and then blood work. And thus far, I just did it at the very end of August, and no sign of cancer. So we're we're just going 4 months at a time. That's good. And then
soundboard applause.
Yeah. So that's good. On the other point, as far as mobility and stuff like that, and a lot of people don't know, but the leg that I do have left, I cut my 3 toes off when I was a teenager. So, a lot of people saying, how are you coming with your prosthetic leg? So I don't have the best, I'm not the most agile with the leg that I do have left because, you use your toes and your foot for stability. So it's basically like I'm hopping around on a 4x4 over there. I don't have the best balances with the leg that I have left. So, and another thing is I've just simply got to lose some weight. So I've been on a diet. Everybody's on the Ozempic and the Mounjaro and stuff like that. My wife's lost over 100 pounds the last 2.5 years from Ribelsis, which is a semi-glutide pill. So I'm on that too. Been on it almost 2 months now, and losing weight. But with me not being able to, walk and run and exercise and just be as busy as I, even a big guy, I was always, never a couch potato. So. Anyway, I'm slowly but surely it's coming off. We're actually getting a therapy pool. It's called a plunge pool. We're having it put in right now. Should be in, so I can I can get in and out of it on my own. I'll be able to exercise. And the cool thing, I've always liked swimming and I've always liked pools and stuff. But the good thing about this is, like, even in the hot summer here, exercising, you're not sweating to death when you're in the pool, or you're sweating, you just don't realize at least you're in a pool. So,
that's right.
So hopefully that'll help, and drop a few lbs. And of course, the lighter I get, the more mobile I'll be able to get with my prosthetic leg. And then, hopefully, keep climbing the ladder slowly but surely. But I'm good. I can still bend a string. We're adapting my farms to where I can get around and hunt, and we'll be able to film some hunts. Naturally, I'm not traveling like I used to.
Yeah.
But all is good, man. No matter how bad things could be. How bad things are, they always could be worse, and there's a lot other people a lot worse off than me. So no, I'm blessed. I'm good. I appreciate you guys asking, and still people, are always asking and commenting. So we're slowly but surely we're on the road to recovery.
That's good. I know. I mean, it's the industry, even your fan base, everybody kind of comes together and tries to be uplifting and positive and always thinking about you. We're probably seeing that a little bit. The Shockey family's probably feeling that a little bit really right now with the recent passing of Luis. It's just a sad deal all around. But with you, I've been it's very positive watching you get back into it in the swing of things and doing what you can do the best. Of course, it hadn't slowed you down at all in the archery shop. You're still doing everything with, on the bone collector, on the interview side. I see you guys on social media. Like it's great as a fan of yours to follow along and see you kind of keep trucking along as normal as you can be. Right. And with your circumstances. So I was wondering, how the hunting side of it was for you. If you got out much last year. I know you said you're adapting the farm, how besides the amount of hunting you can do or the places you can go, how has it affected you in that regard as far as pulling your bow back and doing the things that we're always accustomed to doing?
Yeah, as far as shooting, I've shot more this year than I have probably in the last 10, just because, I can't do a lot of other things. So, I've got I'm able to shoot here. Me and a lot of local guys around here, we have Thursday night shoots every Thursday night. The guys are coming over and we hang out and we, watch a Braves game and we eat and we shoot and we got lights out there. We shoot past dark and, usually hang out till midnight or whatever. So we really got to enjoying the Thursday night knockbuster editions here. So we have little get-togethers like that. And so I've been shooting a lot there. And then last year I killed a couple of deer. I killed one with a rifle and then I killed a doe with a bow last year. And that was, we didn't really have anything adapted, but this year we've got to actually hope to go out and shoot a couple of does this week, actually, in the evening. So
nice.
Got the camera set up. I don't really have anything, huge on camera this year, but I've got plenty of older, mature deer that definitely need an arrow run through them. So we've got plenty of candidates. So we're gonna try to get on them too. We're just watching the cameras and letting them make the first mistake.
Awesome.
Yeah. TBone, I wonder if this past year of shooting from the wheelchair has given you any kind of new perspectives on shooting from a seated position, or anything that you can share with someone who may be, find themselves in a wheelchair but still wants to bow hunt.
Yeah, it hasn't really been hard at all for me. I mean, as far as being able to move around and swing, 180 degrees, it is a little tough. But as far as the pulling back, I always try to tell people, whether you're in a wheelchair or not, the correct way to pull a bow is, so many people associate it with being a macho style, isolating your shoulders and your arms and trying to muscle the bow back, which you do got to use your muscles, of course. But I try to tell everybody to incorporate their whole upper body, so that as the bow's rolling over, you're halfway through the draw, you're pushing, you're pulling. Expand your chest, and then imagine you got a ball between your shoulder blades and you're trying to mash that ball, so that you're incorporating your whole upper body, everything from your belly button up, rather than just trying to do it purely with your arms and purely with your shoulders. It's going to make the whole drawing process a lot easier when you're incorporating your chest, expanding your chest. And, you should hold the bow back, not necessarily with your shoulders and arms, but with your back muscles, so that your opposing forces are going this way. And then when the shot breaks, it breaks this way rather than collapsing on the shot. So, that's what I would tell folks, if they could use your whole upper body.
And I think there's less overall movement with that, with that process, as opposed to, some guys kind of reach up to the sky and come down like this. And it's like, that may work in your backyard, but if you've got a bucket 20 yards, that kind of movement's tough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we call that either aiming at squirrels, or they call it sky drawing. Actually, they deduct points in tournaments for that if you sky draw, because it's dangerous if you're on a range. If you launch an arrow, it's going 2 ranges over. So, you don't want to be pointing up towards the sky. And ideally, we all should. You should. Everybody asks, how do you determine the correct draw weight to shoot? And we all could muscle back more than what we could comfortably shoot, but you don't want to walk it all around your garage, and hold it up high in the air. So I tell everybody to sit in a chair where the tops of your thighs are parallel with the ground, lift your feet off the ground, just an inch off the ground, to where you're not using any leverage off of your legs, and then hold the bow and just, straight out and push and pull. And that's going to tell you, I encourage everybody to shoot as much weight as they possibly can comfortably. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So I guess I probably shouldn't rely on my camera guy to help me come to full draw then. I should change
Yeah.
that.
Easy.
Okay.
yeah, maybe have a pulley system there to help get it right.
It takes Tim 3 minutes to execute a shot. He's got a
Yeah.
series of ropes and pulleys.
The rut's really tough on him.
Right. Stay still. Jeez. Well, we've got a real wild clip of a buck that you can spend as much time as you want drawing down on.
Oh, we got a sick buck here.
We do.
All right, we got the
Yeah.
real wild clip of the week here.
This is coming from Brick Stewart. We're looking down into a creek, and we got a buck standing there. He looks pretty emaciated.
EHD.
Yeah, he's in velvet. He's a pretty wide deer. I mean, he's got a good rack on him, but you can tell he's dropping a lot of weight. His skin is loose and saggy, and he's just looking around listlessly.
Man, sad to see.
It is. T-Bone, do you guys, I mean, you deal with drought a lot, but do you guys deal with EHD much down there?
I mean, I think it's pretty I think it shows up everywhere, but I don't think, as far as I can remember, I've never known a year like that's been hit like the Midwest has. Like I know we've seen it where we hunted in Montana.
Yep.
It was massive out there, and then also, I know the Midwest gets hit from time to time, but I've never seen we'll get the occasional deer from here to there, and like we killed a buck here on my place. My neighbor, I let him shoot it. It was a buck that had, man, I mean, his hooves, it looked like them Mexican cowboy boots. I mean, he had some, and we don't know if it was,
the slipper hoof.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't know if it was, well, of course we didn't have it. We didn't know if it was a survivor of EHD, which that's common, with their hooves like that, or if it was he was foundered. We wasn't sure, but nonetheless, we took him out. But I mean, we see a case here and there, but we'd never see the massive, or we haven't, knock on wood, big time. We haven't seen the massive kill-offs like that has happened in the Midwest, upper Midwest, and like they do out in Montana or Wyoming from time to time.
Yeah.
That's good.
I just realized, like, if you see a deer with slipper hoof and he's wearing a sombrero, he's probably healthy. It's just a choice he's making.
That's right. You're right.
I don't condone that comment.
No,
I don't associate with you or your comment. Yeah.
I always wondered that. That's a good. I mean, if I can ask you guys a question on what's your thoughts, but like in Oklahoma and or like most parts of Kansas and Texas, you don't hear of that much. I mean, is that because it's a real dry climate? I mean, a lot of times it's associated when there is a drought.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they live in drought conditions or very little water, most all the time. So why isn't it prevalent in those states?
That's a great question. That's a Grant Woods question for a real answer, probably. But I don't know, because you're right. You don't hear about it outside of kind of that core Midwest area is where you hear the most about it. And if you think about it, it's like heck, most of the South is drought. It goes through Texas, a lot of those areas, they live through droughts all the time. But I don't know if maybe hurricane season has an effect, for those states that it doesn't for the Midwest. I don't know. But I
wonder if it's I always wondered if it was an agriculture thing, because there's so much agriculture, in the Midwest. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we've got some down here, but nowhere near like you see in, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana. Those states are just, extremely large fields. And, I wonder if there's association with something to do with large crop plantings. I don't know.
Who knows? You never know. That's the thing that it's like it takes 10, 20 years to kind of really do the studies and figure out even like what was it with the turkeys, Tim, the Nudniks or neonics?
Yeah, the neonicotinoids. That's right. You kept calling them the nudniks all the episode.
but that technology didn't exist 20 years ago, or wasn't as prevalent, I don't think. And within the last 10 years, I think it might be having a real effect on not just the turkeys potentially and other smaller bird species, but the insects and all kinds of things.
Well, you just think about insect distribution, and they're distributed differently across the country. It has to do with habitat and predation and other insects. And so and also like I wonder what effects wind has on midges because they're not solid flyers. If there's a little bit of breeze out, mosquitoes aren't going to be too bad because they can't fly through that stuff. But if it's calm, then the mosquitoes are going to tear you up.
But in the South, I think about Mississippi or some of those states, like mosquitoes are all over it's, I don't know, it's thick down there. They'll carry you away down those swamps. So I don't know.
It's a state bird in Mississippi.
Speaking of nudniks, we're just not smart enough. Tim and I are not smart enough to cover your question, unfortunately.
Sure. A long way to say I don't know.
I just don't like when they they throw darts at the wall. There's a lot of times, especially Kansas is kind of like they're talking about doing away with baiting there. And, I hate for them just to throw darts at the wall and, hey, let's try this without, there being some scientific fact on that. So I just, I don't like knee-jerk reactions on things. Hopefully there's some real thought behind everything.
And we were just out there hunting a couple of weeks ago for the muzzleloader season. And the baiting sites, that's a way of life out there. That's a style of hunting. I'm sure you can relate there in your state as well, but that's not that it can't be done without it, but it's so that area I was in Kansas, it's so vast. I mean, it is open terrain, and it's just a way to kind of focus them in on one area. So I don't know. And it's still, even if you have bait piles out, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean they're going to it. It's just one little spot. There's Milo fields everywhere. There's a billion other ways they can get their nutrition. So I don't know.
That's right.
Anyways, it's above my pay grade. What's the next?
Speaking of questions that we can't answer, let's jump into the question of the day.
All right. The question of the day is proudly presented by Cold Steel, professional blade for real hunters.
And Joey wrote this into us from the Rack Pack.
This is from the Rack Pack.
Yeah.
Do you feel that hunting from a saddle leaves you more exposed and likely to get picked off by a deer? Well, I'd let T-Bone answer this. I would answer this, but I have a feeling you're the saddle expert here. So saddle up, partner. Let's hear what you got.
T-Bone, feel free to interrupt me at any point here.
I fit the mold of a saddle hunter. One-legged and way overweight. Yep, I'm a saddle hunter.
Get on up. Let's swing, baby.
Whee! So my experience with saddle hunting is I've never gotten closer to deer than when I've been in a saddle, as opposed to standing in a traditional lock-on tree stand. And I've said this before on the show. The only thing I can figure is I know a lot of guys will set up with the tree between them and where they think the deer is going to come from, and they just kind of lean out from around the side and take the shot. I also think it has something to do with not being vertical in the stand. You're kind of at a 45-degree angle. So you look more like something that's naturally occurring in the tree. But I've had deer come mature bucks come right underneath me.
In my stand, I stand kind of like Michael Jackson. So I'm at a 45-degree angle most of the time. I let the tension on my,
you're practically a saddle hunter, man.
Yeah. My harness kind of just hold me there.
Yeah. Like you haven't had your V8.
This is a joke. Don't do it. No.
It's leaning
if my 2 cents, I've never hunted out of it. However, just a little backstory and show how my age was. The inventor of the tree saddle was James Green, which was way back in the 80s, and he was a North Georgia resident, and they would bring he was a customer of mine when I had my store back in the late 80s and 90s. So if I was of average size and certainly hunting by myself, I would absolutely recommend hunting out of it. It just especially growing up public land hunting and stuff, man, it just makes things really, really easy. A lot of guys down here that have tree saddle hunted for so long, they use the climbing spikes like they do with, for linemen and telephone men, and they don't even use steps or anything. They just go up to the tree, put their hooks in, and climb right up the tree and kind of balance on a limb, or, they'll take a few screw-in steps to balance on once they get to their spot, and that's it.
So they hunting mostly like the pines, or what kind of trees are they hunting in?
Just whatever suits them best, as far as that goes. If you get in some, you want something to have a good backdrop for sure, but some of these pine forests that we have, because they're all planted pines, just like hanging off the side of a telephone pole, so you don't really have much to go by. So you try to tuck into a nearby creek bottom or something like that where you got some back cover.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're in the process, like if you're gonna swing out, if you like, don't say "wee" really loud, just say "wee."
Yeah, T-Bone, we got this thing called the Rack Pack. It's a Facebook group that like people that listen to the show jump into, the 100% Wild Rack Pack. And if you're not in there, you should jump in there. It's pretty funny. Every time a saddle meme hits the internet, somebody puts it in there and tags Tim. It's great. Just yesterday, there was one. It was Michael Scott on a swing set, and he was there by himself. He was real lonely. I was like, this is how saddle hunters feel.
Because I get that. Plus, I get personal texts from Mark Drury with saddle memes that he finds.
The dirtier ones.
Can't show these to anybody. Okay, so the wildlife word this week is made possible by PH Outdoors. Finish up your fall food plots in no time flat with a G-Series no-till implement. All right, we're talking about blood loss in whitetails right now, what it takes to tip them over. An average 150-pound whitetail has about 8 pints of blood in it. How much does it take for them, or how much do they have to lose before they fall over? Is it A, 10%, B, 15%, C, 20%, or D, 35% of their total blood volume?
I have no idea. T-Bone, what are your thoughts here?
Man, I don't know. I would just guessing. I would say 20%.
That's what I was thinking, but
Of course.
it was Tim. C.
No way knowing that.
There wasn't an E, all the above.
It is D. And of course, it's very situational, but about 35% of total blood loss is what it takes for a deer to keel over and quit working.
Might be why I didn't find the one in Kansas, because we weren't finding not even 10%.
35% is a lot of blood.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, that is a ton.
But you think about
most of the time it's going inside the deer's cavity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for the sake of this fact, I think it's not necessarily that it's coming out of them, but it's hemorrhaging somewhere, because if it's sloshing around in their gut, it's not going to do them any good, but they just have to have that kind of loss from their vascular system.
Yeah.
Right.
They are tough critters, man.
Yes.
I mean, if we lose 5%, I imagine we're going down hard.
I mean, if you lose 1%, I'm like, I'm woozy.
I bit my tongue a couple days ago, and I pretty much fell down like I just been sniped by someone. We are.
That could be tough.
We're wusses.
You and I are, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, shout outs. We got a shout out from.
We're almost done, T-Bone. I promise.
No worries. Hey, I'm fine. I'm having fun.
Scott West gave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. He said, "Really enjoy the podcast, guys. It's my favorite outdoor podcast. That's gonna be a problem, and I appreciate the humor. Keep them coming."
He must not be listening to Working Class. This is his favorite.
Will become not his favorite.
Well, thanks, Scott. We appreciate it. All right, we've finally come to the end, T-Bone. We got the last segment. I mentioned the Rack Pack earlier. Every week, Tim gives me a list of Rack Pack members' names, new members. Every week, I read them and butcher their names, and every week there's a fake one in here. So if you hear the fake one, feel free to shout it out. All right, so we got Jimmy Yoder, Matt Hudson with a D, Travis Mertens, Cardiac Shot. Cardiac Shot is the one. Cardiac Shot. Got it. All right. Kevin Rudnick, Daniel Taylor, Kanan Whittle, Barry Barty. That sounds fake.
What's
Barry
up,
Barty. Zach Mart. Also sounds fake.
Zach Mart could be a store.
All right, guys. We appreciate you jumping into the Rack Pack. The shenanigans are full blast. If you have saddle memes, tag Tim.
Or don't. Either way.
T-Bone, any parting shots for us before we sign off for the day?
Man, I don't know. I just wish everybody good luck. Have a safe fall. That means everything. And we've been getting cooler temperatures down here. So, man, I'm really enjoying just being outside as much as I possibly can. I'm so glad that this hot, sweltery summer's kind of over down here. So it's our time of year, man. From here till I was thinking of it yesterday. I was out and about, and I was like, I pretty much from now till about the 1st of April. I always enjoy down here until the yellow pine pollen comes. And then when the yellow pine pollen starts down here, it's like, now we got pollen, and next comes the heat and humidity. So yeah, just be safe and have a great fall, man. Celebrate. Don't no frowns, no negativity. Let's celebrate, guys. Let's celebrate.
Perfect.
I like
That's
that.
a good way to end it. We love you, man.
Do 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 do
Is that
do.
celebration?
Cool in the gang.
Got it.
Yeah. Make sure everybody goes and request that NSYNC does this comeback tour. I just would appreciate that. So I'm really looking forward to getting out and going to see that. So
T-Bone and I both got lucky. We got to go to a Justin Timberlake concert. My excuse was I have a wife that loves him, not me.
I'm just here for her.
Yeah,
I hate this.
We got to
stuff.
meet him. There, his one of his best friends, a diehard hunter. Trace, and we were lucky enough. A mutual friend, JP Morris, was friends with him. Set us up. We both got to, in our respective cities, see him on his last concert. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
It was great. Yeah, actually, I went to 3 different cities, so I went 3 different times.
You animal.
Yeah, man. And it's funny because when we go, my wife, when she goes with me, the people there, the fans and stuff, and it's like, they're saying like, "Oh, you're so awesome to, bring your wife to see Justin Timberlake." And she goes, "Oh, you have no idea." She goes, "He's the fan. I'm not."
Shut up.
That's awesome.
I was hanging out with his dad, Justin's dad, and we were backstage and stuff. I don't know if you got to meet him when you were at the concert.
His dad wasn't there. I got to meet Justin though.
Yeah, and I met Justin as well, but I was hanging with his dad, and he's a big hunter, and we were talking and hanging out, and he goes, you don't have to stay out here if you want to. You can come back to the green room, and I was right there beside the stage and hooping it up, and he was watching me, and I'm lip syncing and singing every song, and he goes, "Dude, you are a fan. You know every song, don't you?" I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah."
yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That was the neat part. Justin's grandpa had like, was it Blue Hound Tick? I'm trying to think. They were like really big in the Memphis area into like hunting dogs, raising them and training them and all that stuff. Is that what they had told you?
Yeah, they were. His background is that way, and even Trace had told us that he likes, bird hunting, duck hunting, stuff like that, where it's fast paced. He's, doesn't have the patience to deer hunt and stuff like that. But we got him a bow. He's got a bow. I know he's got a bow. So
does he use
I don't know. I don't know if the string's ever been drawn, but he's got a bow.
That's the fun part, right? That's some of the cool part about this is the other meeting other people that you would never think hunt or have an interest in the outdoors. That's the neat part of it for sure.
Exactly.
So, well, we thank you, man. Thank you for your time today, and we wish you nothing but the best this season, and we hope to catch up with you again soon.
Sounds good, guys. Holler if you need anything. We appreciate you guys. Y'all have a safe and happy fall.
All right.
Yep, you too.
Until next time.
See ya.
See you guys.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast. We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast. Prep, predict, and pursue your target buck.